So after what feels like forever, I finally beat Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition on the Switch. I know it came out like a month and a half ago, but I did finish it like 2 weeks ago or so, did the future connected stuff, and I've got thoughts. The game was actually provided to me by Nintendo, but do not worry, that has not affected my judgment in any way. I was pretty mixed on this game overall, even though I did have a really fun time. So I'm not exactly new to the Xenoblade series. I have played Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and X. I've beaten 2, haven't beaten X, but got pretty far. So I was pretty stoked when we found out that Xenoblade Chronicles was coming to the Switch in the form of Definitive Edition. I wanted to see the new improvements, the updated visuals, the gameplay, the music, which we were being told was being remastered. So I wanted to witness all of that for the first time because I have never touched Xenoblade Chronicles before. I was hyped. It was a long and painful, it was almost a year, I think, between reveal and launch, and I had to avoid so many spoilers, but here I am. Here are my thoughts on the game after so long. Was it any good for me as a new player to Xenoblade Chronicles or not? So let's just get straight into it. So I thought this story, let's just start with that, why not? It's the main reason that people play Xenoblade, I feel like. The story was a mixed bag for me. My main issue was that it just started off really slow. Like, we did get the opening and the stuff did happen within the first like 2 hours, but after that main point, you have to wait quite a bit before we get more stuff ramping up. It was about halfway through the game where we actually got more story beats, more story details, big revelations. That's what made me want to keep on playing it at that point, halfway through. But that is a lot to ask for the player, in my opinion. It was around 25 hours before I was fully invested into the story. And I know this is like a typical trope for RPGs and JRPGs, but I just wish that it just made me a bit more invested beforehand, because I was getting quite bored, I'm not going to lie. The characters are really good in that, but the main story itself basically went down to Shulk wants to stop the Mechon, which are like the main enemy of the game, and it never went past that until halfway through the game. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 did something similar to this, but I don't think it was as bad. Chapter 4 was a slog, as everyone says, but I feel like for the most part, it was really well paced. Xenoblade 1 just doesn't feel like that at all. Halfway through the game is kind of what you have to go for before you start really being invested into what's happening and everything like that. But once that did happen, it was pretty good. I started enjoying the characters way more. I started enjoying the villains way more. I was invested in the story. I liked the lore. I liked all this stuff that was building up. Everything about the Bionis and the mechanics. All of this stuff. It was sick. I still don't think it's as good as Xenoblade 2. Xenoblade 2 just, I feel like the lore of its world and its characters just feels a bit more fleshed out than what 1 did. But you've also got to remember, this was the first Xenoblade game from the Wii, so I'm willing to give it a couple of passes there. So, overall, good story. I was pretty entertained. I just think Xenoblade Chronicles 2's story was a bit better, but the characters were pretty good. We've got Shulk and Melia and Ricky, Fiora, Dunban, Rein. They were all pretty good characters. I think the relationship between Shulk and Rein and Dunban was pretty good. Ricky, I didn't like at first. I wasn't really like a no-pun advocate at first. I didn't really like him that much. But by that halfway point I was talking about earlier, the halfway point of that is when he started becoming a pretty decent character, and now I think Ricky's fucking awesome. I really like Ricky as a character, so there you go. Ricky's good. You heard it in this video first, because I hate Tora, I hate Tatsu, but I like Ricky. Ricky's a nice character. So we got the characters, they were good. Now, the gameplay, I was a bit iffy on as well, because Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is, of course, people think it's a bit too complicated, but I really got into the systems, the battle system, the aux cores, all of the different blades, trying to like build it all together to make your ultimate like machines. And I thought it was sick. I thought that was really cool. I do understand that it was a bit too in-depth at first, but after you get past that initial point, it really becomes fun. And Xenoblade 1, I think I started understanding the battle system straight away. It was really simplified compared to Xenoblade 2. I get it, it's the first game, but you've got like your breaks and your topples, and then you've got days, and I feel like that's the extent it goes. And then you've also got the chain attacks that don't feel as prominent as Xenoblade 2's. You use them more often, but they're not as spectacular. They don't do as much damage. It's not as if you're trying to build up this massive combo and then you finish it off with a chain attack. No, chain attacks are things that I regularly used throughout the battle system. So battle system was fast, and I was scared it was going to be way too slow, but they've got nice indicators of where to hit the enemies on the sides, because they've got weak points depending on what art you use. So you've got one of the arts that says, hit them on the side for extra damage. It would show an exclamation point once you walk to the side. Things like that are sick. That is awesome. The Wii version didn't have that as far as I can tell, so that was fantastic. I like that quite a bit. I do wish there was a bit more depth, only because I came from Xenoblade 2, so I was kind of already accustomed to the schemes of Xenoblade. So I guess for a new player, it would be alright, it's a good starting point, but for me personally, who has already played Xenoblade 2, I just kind of wish it was a bit more in-depth with its battle systems. But still fun either way, I still had fun. I just felt like it was a bit samey as I was going throughout the game. It just didn't really feel like it ramped up too much. Other than, I guess, the chain attacks that are better when you've got higher affinity with the characters, which is one part of the chain attacks I don't really like, because it feels like it's a bit random. It's a random element of, if your affinity is high, we might let you do another attack, but if not, then we're not going to let you. And it's technically not RNG based, there is actually a formula to it, but I don't think anyone would possibly know that unless they search for it online, which is something I'm not a fan of in games, when you have to search for stuff online to find certain items. Xenoblade X. And then we've got the worlds themselves, and for the most part, I was pretty pleased. I feel like it was bigger than Xenoblade 2. I feel like there was a lot more areas I was exploring, but that's because Xenoblade 2 was mainly about the Titans, so they were really segregated off, whereas in this game, you've got the Bionics and you've got the Mechanics, and you're exploring their body parts. I will say that in the second half of the game, I don't think this is really spoilers, but you go up the body of the Mechanics, and that feels a bit rushed. On the Bionis, you're exploring different parts of the body, whereas Mechanics, you do that, but it just feels like the middle part where you're just going up the body. I get it, it's mechanical, it's meant to be, it's meant to be like artificial, it makes sense, but it just felt like they were rushing a bit because you just go up a massive elevator and skip half of the body. So I wasn't a massive fan of that, but overall, I liked it. I like that you can see different parts of the body from wherever you are standing at. I think that's sick, I think it's immersive, and I think it's a really unique world setting. So I was happy with the worlds. They felt grand, they felt really fleshed out. Something I wasn't happy with though, the music. And this is probably going to be a part where I'm going to get destroyed and dislike bombed. I did like the music quite a bit. This isn't saying the music was bad. I thought the music was pretty good. But I do not think it was anywhere near, nowhere near, no pun intended, to the levels of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It felt like a lot of the tracks in this game went for the same desolate feel, like slow pianos or slow violin, and you can tell me, yeah, that's the point of Xenoblade, I get that, but when you're doing it for the majority of the field themes, I think it gets a bit stale. Like, I went from Machna Forest to Eris Sea to Valak Mountain, and these all felt the same like type of music. The Fallen Arm, these all felt the same, and I was wishing, every time I went to a new area, I was wishing just for a bit more diversity with the music, and we didn't really get that too much. And that's a shame for me, because we've got places like Gawa Plains, which I think is excellent. I think Colony 9, excellent. I even still like Machna Forest. I still like the music from Machna Forest. I just, from that point, like Eris Sea, for example, is a big beach area, and to me, I feel like that should have been like a bombastic theme, because it's like the place of the high end tier. It's meant to be grand. It's not meant to be quiet and desolate. It's like a high royalty place. So I thought, okay, big, bombastic, epic music. But we didn't get that. We got slow pianos, desolate theme again. And yeah, it made me pretty sick of the soundtrack rather fast. Saying this though, the battle themes, as few as there are, because there's also not a lot of them in this game, the ones we have are excellent. I think the regular battle theme, I think the Obstacle in Our Path is really good, even though we hear it way too much. You all know our names, so the goddamn masterpiece and the remasters. Holy shit, they're so good. They were good. They were good. The themes were pretty good for the most part. I just think Xenoblade 2 went further with its themes, and it felt more dynamic. And here's another issue I've got to shove in here really fast. They advertised it as 90 plus remastered tracks, but none of the cutscene music was redone except for Engage the Enemy. And I don't know if A Tragic Decision counts as a battle theme or cutscene music, but that was redone. But when we hear like Gawa Plains, Colony 9, the battle themes, and Nintendo was showing this off as, oh yeah, it's been redone, and then we get to the game and the cutscene music isn't redone and it's probably just got a higher bitrate or something, feels a bit misleading. I don't like that. That's not good. The last thing I want to touch on is the future connected epilogue. So this was this new epilogue added to the game. Takes place after Xenoblade Chronicles and all of the events. There's going to be no spoilers here, but I do just want to say that I found it quite weird that a lot of the characters felt like they were whispering when they were delivering their lines. Shulk and Melia specifically. I don't know what happened, and I don't know what they were going for, if they were going for more grounded voices, but it just felt like they were whispering. The two Nopon, Nene and Kino, I thought they were pretty good. Kino is naturally a quiet character, but I thought Nene was pretty good. I actually really like the Nopons in this game, by the way. The Nopons, sick. I love Nene and Kino. They are fantastic. But the epilogue itself, the story was basically non-existent. I was not invested whatsoever. But the landscape, the world of the Bionis' shoulder, and the music was excellent. So I was really happy with that. Story could have been a lot better. But in terms of gameplay, I actually had a lot of fun and was actually one of my highlights of the whole game. And Melia, you know what, I need to add this in here as well. Melia was not my favourite character. She felt like the least fleshed out character out of all of them. It's nice that the epilogue tried to focus on her, but I don't know. It just felt like she seemed a bit flat, uninteresting. Just not my favourite character out there. Probably the worst character in the game for me. But you know what, I'm trying to cram everything in here of all my thoughts, but holy shit, there's a lot. So I'm just going to end with this. It was a fun game. I think the story was good, but it picked up too slowly. I think the music was really good, but it could have been more varied. And I think the epilogue was super fun, but I wish it had more story and felt more substantial, because, I don't know, it just felt kind of filler in the end. But the gameplay was fun. So, it was a mixed bag. I definitely prefer Xenoblade 2, but at the same time, you know what? I had a fun time. So, I don't know, I don't do ratings or whatever. I guess I'd give it a 7 out of 10 if I had to, but it was fun. You know what? It was fun, and I'm invested in the series now. Fully, completely invested. I cannot wait for Xenoblade 3. Please give it us to Nintendo. We need it now. So, yeah, that's my thoughts. If you guys are thinking about playing Xenoblade, if you haven't picked it up, let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to discuss it with you. Considering with how much I've got to say, I can let you know if you'd be into it or not. But that's it. That's everything I've got to say. So thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out, my dudes.